So it's time for me to change the monitor in my racing sim again. I built this sim less than a year ago and it's already had a 34-inch OLED Ultrawide monitor which wasn't big enough, so I replaced it with this 49-inch OLED Ultrawide instead, which is way more immersive, but it's slightly too big for the space. So it's time to change things again, and I think I found the perfect solution. Say hello to the LG Ultragear 45-inch OLED Ultrawide, and today we're going to be checking this monitor out and putting it into the sim. And also, if you're interested in getting a bunch of free tech and gear, make sure to keep an eye out later in the video too. Let's dive in. So I've been wanting to pick up one of these LG OLED monitors for a while, and the original plan was for me to get one as my new main monitor in the editing setup. But I have some separate plans for that, as you'll see in the coming weeks. But with the racing sim monitor being too wide, I knew I needed to find something to better fit the space. And when Prime Day came around and this monitor was £600 off, I snapped it up straight away. So yes, I bought this myself, and this video is not sponsored by LG in any way, but it is, however, sponsored by Spudd. One of the most overlooked part of any desk setup is your chair, and I don't understand it because when you're sitting at a desk all day, it should be one of the most important parts. The Spudd Duro S100 combines sleek aesthetics with ergonomics and comfort to keep you in the best position whether you're working from home or settling into an all-day gaming session. With dual dynamic lumbar support to be comfortable and well supported all day and not have to worry about back pain from carrying your teammates online, independent backrest to support your upper back and shoulders to keep a good posture whilst being adjustable for different sizes, and up to 135-degree angle of recline for relaxing how you want on those much needed breaks. Plus it comes in both black and white versions to match whatever vibe you're going for. You can find out more and check out Spudd's range of chairs from the link in the description, and you'll find a 6% discount code to save some money so you can start looking after your back and behind. Before we check out the monitor, let's open this up and take a look at what you get in the box. First up we have the stand, which is made up of these two parts. Then of course we have the monitor itself, and we'll look at this more a little later. Then finally we have this little box with all the accessories, including the power brick and plug, a HDMI cable, a DisplayPort cable, USB-C to USB-C cable, the manuals and information, and finally this little clip which attaches to the back of the stand for cable management. Now let's take a look at the design of the monitor. Starting off with the stand, we have this large angular metal base which is pretty sizable as you'd expect for a monitor of this size. The stand itself is made from plastic, with the outside having this glossy finish, and as we've mentioned, you also have this little clip you can add to manage any cables, which is a nice touch. The monitor itself features a 45-inch panel with a matte finish, and we'll get into the specs shortly. Then on the back we have this sleek design with the Ultragear logo at the top on the thin part of the panel. Then below that we have this bigger housing with this nice pattern finish on the plastic, and this is where it houses all the components and the ports. On either side we have these angular edges featuring some built-in RGB lights which can be customized in the settings, and they add a nice slight glow behind the monitor. On the top of the housing are the vents for cooling, and then on the underside we have two downward facing speakers. Assembling the monitor is simple. The stand simply slots into the base and is tightened with a single screw, and then it easily clamps into the back of the monitor without any need for tools. If you wanted to mount the monitor to an arm or a wall mount, you can, as the monitor is VESA compatible as well. Movement wise, the stand allows the monitor to tilt up and down, swivel side to side, and also has adjustable height. In terms of connectivity, the ports on this monitor are located on the back rather than the bottom and are rear facing instead of downward. So this is more handy for hiding the cables, but the trade-off is that it might be more difficult to get to the cables in certain setups. On the left we have two HDMI 2.1 ports and one DisplayPort 1.4 with DSC. Then on the right we have a USB-C port with 65-watt power delivery, two USB 3.0 ports, and the port for DC power. Then underneath the monitor you'll find a 4-pole headphone port as well as the control button / joystick for navigating the menus. So now let's talk about the specs of this monitor. LG has quite a few 45-inch models these days, and this particular one is the newest 45GS96QB. It features a 45-inch 3440 by 1440 WQHD OLED display with a 240Hz refresh rate, 0.03 millisecond grey to grey response time, and a 21:9 aspect ratio. And the 45-inch 21:9 display actually has 12% more screen real estate than a 49-inch 32:9 display, and this screen really is nice and large. The monitor also features an 800R curve which really wraps around you for added immersion, but bear in mind this does mean it takes up a fair bit more depth from front to back, and in turn is slightly narrower than it would be with a smaller curve, which is going to help me later on. The panel is covered in an anti-glare and low reflection matte coating to help in those brighter setups. What's great about this monitor is that it also comes with built-in speakers, so if you want, you can listen to the sound directly from those, and we'll have a look at the quality more in depth later on. First though, let's take a look at the performance of the monitor. So as mentioned, we have a matte OLED panel which is similar to the one I use in my gaming setup. And there are a couple of trade-offs against some of the glossy OLED monitors out there. The first is with the colors. Now this monitor is rated for 98.5% DCI-P3 color gamut coverage, and from using this monitor so far, I have to say the colors do look really nice. They're not quite as vibrant as with a glossy OLED, but they do still really pop and stand out very nicely on this monitor, whilst maintaining a good level of realism and color accuracy, which I think looks really good. The matte finish also helps with the black levels, and it is VESA Display HDR True Black 400 rated, and in fact the black levels are so good on here that the black sections of this video are actually darker than the bars down either side, which is very impressive. This monitor, like many of LG's newer models, uses something called Micro Lens Array Plus or MLA Plus, and this gives a 37.5% higher brightness in SDR content, so you have no issues with seeing the display in a brighter environment. My studio is normally very bright from both the natural light coming in through the window and the many studio lights I use in here, and I have absolutely no issues with using the monitor in here at all. Having tried gaming, watching media, and also productivity tasks on here, I have to say so far I am very impressed with the way everything looks on this monitor. Before we move on, let's talk about how you guys can get your hands on a bunch of free tech and gear. It's officially December now, so that means Christmas is on the way. To celebrate and give back to you guys for the absolutely incredible support you've given me in 2024, I'm going to be doing a huge 12 days of Christmas giveaway event. That means 12 whole days of giveaways. Each day I'll be giving away something new, whether that's tech, games, and more, so there will be plenty of chances to enter. To get involved, all you'll need to do is be subscribed to the channel, as I'll only be picking winners from subscribers, and there will be more chances to win on my TikTok and Instagram pages, so make sure to follow those too from the links in the description. Keep an eye out for more details very soon, and thank you again for the incredible support you guys have shown me this year. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without you. For now though, let's get back to the video. So we've run through kind of the spec side of things, but what's this monitor actually like to play on? Well, right off the bat, I'm gonna say it is very enjoyable. Everything runs really smoothly on here. The 240Hz refresh rate is really nice for PC gaming, it's very fluid, and when you're playing it with a high-end PC capable of hitting those higher FPS levels, it becomes a really fun experience to play on here. The 800R curve is definitely a big plus for me. I've used various curved ultrawides in the past, and they've all had a very shallow 1500R curve, like the 49-inch in my racing sim currently. And while it's still quite immersive, having the 800R curve here is so much better because it really wraps around you to feel like you're being sucked into the game you're playing. The improved brightness over older models and the vibrant and realistic colors make for some really vivid and great looking gameplay. And the only thing that lets this monitor down is the fact that it's only 1440p, which on a monitor of this size is pretty noticeable. The monitor I usually game on is a smaller 4K screen, and everything on there looks super sharp and crisp. Yet the monitor in my racing sim is 1440p like the LG, but as I mentioned earlier, this screen is actually around 12% bigger overall than a 49-inch 32:9 monitor, and the pixel density on here is pretty low. And when you're sat close to the monitor, it is possible to actually spot the individual pixels on screen. I would absolutely love for them to release a 4K version of this monitor, and with CES coming next month, you never know, we might see that. Although in a way, I'd be a bit annoyed as I've only just bought this version myself, but overall, the playing experience on here is still really good. Another thing this monitor does well, and is actually one of the reasons I got this model, is the sound. It packs two 7-watt speakers, and yes, they are still monitor speakers, so they're not going to be as good as using something like an external soundbar or bookshelf speakers. But I have to say, for built-in speakers, they do actually sound pretty good. And in terms of volume, they get super loud. I've actually been playing games with the volume set to around 20 because anything above that was just too loud for me.
Incoming frag.
Because I'm having this in the sim rig and I don't always want to use headphones while I'm racing, this was one of the big selling points for me on this monitor, and I'm quite impressed with the quality. The final thing I'm going to touch on before we put this in the sim is the menus and UI. I've seen a lot of people who use LG monitors talking about this, and I can see why. I really like the way they've laid everything out on here. It's simple, easy to navigate, and for a menu, it actually looks pretty cool. You get a display to tell you what refresh rate you're getting at any time. You can cycle through all the built-in features like adaptive sync, black stabilizer, crosshair, adjust picture and sound settings. And you can also cycle through the OLED burn-in protection features this monitor packs, such as the screen move, which moves pixels around periodically, screensaver, and image cleaning. And speaking of burn-in, this is not something I'm worried about with this monitor, as the newer gen OLEDs are very well protected against it these days, and it's highly unlikely that you're going to suffer any. This was a big problem on the older gen OLEDs, but as technology has advanced, it has become much less of an issue, and I'm not worried about it at all. So now that we've had a look at the monitor and had a play around to test everything out, it's time to actually get it into the sim and see how it looks. First things first, we need to pull out the sim rig so that we can get the monitor stand out of the corner. I'm also going to be reusing the strip lights from the back of this monitor, as the built-in LEDs on the LG are nowhere near as bright as something like these. And with those off, we can remove the old 49-inch from the stand. Now we can bring in the LG monitor and attach it in the same place. And as you can see, this monitor is actually the perfect size to fit into the alcove here, which makes me really happy. Not only was the 49-inch too wide to fit in the alcove, but because of the way I had to fit everything in there, it was actually slightly off-center from the rest of the rig, and it really bugged me every time I wanted to do some racing. But now the monitor's in place, we can put the sim rig back, and now we're ready to go. And this immediately looks so much better, and I'm so glad that everything is lined up nicely and it fits in perfectly. The only thing I'm going to have to keep an eye on is the fact I'm going to be adding some wall panels very soon, and I'm hoping that it will still fit in the alcove once they're in. But for now, I'm really happy with the way this has turned out.
So this is the part of the video where I was going to jump into the sim and do some racing and see how I felt with the new monitor installed. However, it would appear somewhere in the process of taking the sim rig out and then putting it back, the power supply to my wheelbase has stopped working. So there is no power at all going to the wheelbase or the wheel. So obviously I can't showcase any racing with the new monitor or see how I like it, which is a massive shame. All I can say right now is that the new monitor looks great in the rig. I'm so much happier now that everything is aligned properly again. The bigger curve definitely feels more immersive already and fills my peripheral vision nicely, and I'm looking forward to getting some racing done when I've got these issues fixed. You'll have to keep an eye on my short form content for that when it's done.
But anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the new monitor and the new sim racing setup. Do you prefer the wider 49-inch or the bigger overall 45-inch? If you enjoyed the video, then please make sure to hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to be in with a chance of winning a ton of free tech and goodies in the run up to Christmas. I'll be back with another video very soon. See you later.